Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. So great to see all of you here. Thank you for joining this webinar. Huge welcome to all of you who have joined this masterclass today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know it's quite a busy time for all of you at the moment, and particularly those who were able to connect with at XeroCon as well. Thank you for following up with us today to learn a little bit more about Ignition. So today we'll have quite a practical run through and a masterclass to demonstrate how the software works. And really at the end of the day today, I'm hoping that you'll have a really solid understanding of how the software itself works, but then also how you're able to leverage that for your own practice, give you an opportunity to ask any questions as we go, and make sure that you're walking away from this webinar today with all the answers that you need to give you an opportunity to learn more about Ignition. So in terms of our agenda today, I wanted to just quickly run through some of your obligations surrounding your client engagements and run through, I guess, where the gaps might be in your current process, and then specifically show you how Ignition can help you to streamline your engagements and eliminate the debtors in your practice, which is the topic of this webinar today, to help you get sign-off from your clients in a matter of minutes. And I wanted to really kick this off with just a reminder that from what we're seeing with the almost 6,000 accounting bookkeeping firms that are using Ignition globally, is that your services are more important than ever at the moment, particularly as there's just a lack of talent within the accounting industry in particular, but just even the compliance burden alone and the needs of these small businesses is now far greater than it's ever been. And just wanted to remind you that your services are so important, and this is really why we think you should get a proper engagements process in place. And I guess we'd ask the question, so why aren't you properly engaged? We ran a survey just several weeks ago where we surveyed almost 600 decision makers in small to medium accounting and bookkeeping firms in Australia. And the average, on average, they were losing over $100,000 in unrecovered out of scope work every year. They were not billing their clients. And in these sort of uncertain economic times, we think it's really important that you are looking after your team and your business as much as your clients. So making sure that you are getting engaged, you are getting agreed to payment terms up front so that you can manage your own cash flow properly and stop, writing off work and carrying these, really high sort of WIP and debtor days within your practice. So for those of you who are, this will be a good test if anyone's looking at their emails, jump on. I'm just about to launch a poll for all of you. Hopefully you can see that. We'd love to know how your current engagements process is working. Do you think it needs work? Is it working just fine? If you would like Ignition, and obviously you're here to learn more about Ignition, but if you would like us to get in touch with you to give you an opportunity to go through this on one-on-one, please vote on that so we can prioritize reaching out to you as well. But I'd love to just get a split from those who are on the call today as to whether you think your engagements process is just fine how it is, or whether you think it needs work. And I would think that most of you would assume that it needs work given you're on the webinar today, but I've learned not to assume anything. Fantastic. So it looks like 80% of you on the call today have said that you need to work on your engagements process. So fantastic that you're here, I think is the takeaway. And hopefully we're able to really add some value to you in this session. Thank you for voting on that poll, everyone. I'll go ahead and end that now. Fantastic. A couple of key points that we really see in terms of benefits of putting in place a strategy around your engagements is the opportunity to connect more regularly with your clients and provide more rigor around that conversation. And so you're obviously meeting with your clients, some of you once a year, but most likely, far more regularly than that. But the engagements process allows you to have a structured process to review your scope, manage your risk of scope creep by making sure that you're charging and setting the right expectations with your clients, which in turn is driving profit to your bottom line without having to find new work. Gives you an opportunity to set expectations with your clients as well. So making sure that they're on the same page with regard to their obligations as your clients, getting you the information at the right time in the right format. They haven't gone and made a dog's breakfast of the Xero file. There's, all of these sort of things. The engagements process gives you that opportunity to set those expectations, and it reduces your risk of non-compliance with some key industry guidance, which I'm going to highlight today as well. You've got kind of two options then in terms of how you deal with this as a practitioner. And the first one is you're potentially a current process where you're just jumping in and doing all the work, taking on all your responsibilities, without any protection. So this is typically relying on an engagement that may or may not have happened. You might have a signed PDF or a Word document, or you might have nothing. You might have something in your call log or a text message from your client as well. This is just simply not enough to comply with some of the standards that we'll go through in a few minutes. So there's a current process, and we think there is a better way here where you're able to send out an updated engagement to specify terms of any additional work you'll complete, set out the fees of that work, if there is any fees for that particular work, and then agree on the terms before starting. The biggest thing that we've seen with firms that have put this process in place is that it's a proactive and future-focused approach where clients will then expect a new engagement each year after you set that initial expectation up front. We've got firms who actually have a mandated engagement process. They sit down with their clients annually, they review their scope in their ignition engagement letter. They go through line by line and they review scope, they look at the recoverability and the profitability internally, and then reprice and rescope every year with their clients. They're not just raising prices by CPI, they're making sure that they are getting paid for all the value that they are delivering. And in some cases that has meant a huge increase in revenue and in fees without actually taking on any additional work. So just to get you up to speed, and then I'll jump into the product, given I know all of you want to see how it works. Your engagement letter, according to APS 305 and some of the Tax Practitioners Board resources, should include all of the services you're providing, the capacity in which they're provided, how often those services will be provided, who is responsible for what and when, how the services will be charged, and then most importantly, and the thing we see people miss out all the time, is what's not included in that engagement as well. So what's out of scope? What are the provisions for out of scope work? What happens when the client calls you up and asks you to do something that you weren't originally agreed for? Do you have something to fall back on, or are you obligated to go and do that work in the best interests of helping the client, but you've got then no assurance that they're going to pay a revised invoice? In terms of who you should be engaging, and you'll get this deck with these resources and so on as well if you want to go and read more, but you should actually be engaging every client within that client group in receipt of their services. It is highly unlikely you'll be completing the same work for each client within that group. So partners within a partnership, directors of a company, husband and wife, you should actually be issuing separate engagements to make sure there is total clarity and limiting misunderstanding and preventing fee disputes there. Our accountants do that really well. So my wife and I actually get a separate engagement for our tax returns for various things that we do. It should be separate according to this guidance that the board has released. In terms of how regularly you should be engaging, and this is again one of the common sort of pitfalls that we see. Our practitioners relying on out-of-date engagement letters. So something that they sent years ago, something that they got signed off at the start of the relationship 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they haven't bothered to go and review and update those terms. You really do need to be sending an updated engagement letter at least once a year, but particularly if there's a change to the nature of the services provided. And I would hazard a guess to say that most of you have changed the way that you engage with your clients over the last sort of 2 to 3 years, given all that's gone on. Critically here as well, if you've implemented a new piece of technology within your practice, even a new internally facing like a practice management solution, you need to make sure that those privacy policies are listed in your engagement if they're containing client data. And the reason for that is that in the event of a data breach, you need to make sure that you're covered and that the liability is not resting on you if one of your software providers is unable to, in the event of a breach with one of your software providers. So these are all critical items that you should be able to cover off within your engagement letter. We sometimes say you wouldn't start building a house without signing a contract. You wouldn't purchase a home without signing a contract. You shouldn't be servicing your clients without having an up-to-date relevant contract to support that agreement and relationship. And I guess what's been stopping you is that there is a flawed process behind this. So needing to rely on Word documents, PDFs that you're marking up as a digital signing to send out to your clients. You're needing to customize the PDFs and Word documents every time you're sending those to clients as well. We've seen the impact of this, that you are actually working on your clients' terms. They're paying you when they like. Usually then you're not at the top of the list to pay, sorry to say, but your team have no control over the client relationships. They're stressed and they're overworked because they're not sure what's in scope and what's out of scope. Surely some of you have worked in firms where that is the case. You are completing work which ends up getting written off because the client's not going to pay the invoice. So that results in a demotivation. And then finally here, this is the key point that we're trying to address with Ignition is that engagements are inaccessible and the client relationships are bottlenecked. The information about the client relationship, what they're willing to charge, what they're engaged for, all of these things sit at the director, the partner level, or the client managers, and the ones actually doing the work aren't across what the client has agreed to sign up for. And so we are trying to give you a platform to provide visibility, to provide clarity, to provide confidence around all of your client engagements. And again, as I've sort of mentioned, getting it right, it does allow you to drive a lot of profit straight to your bottom line. We've seen incredible growth from firms who are doing this well. I'm talking 20, 30, 40% year on year growth for professional services, which is pretty much unheard of. There is that element of it, but it also means that you can work with fewer clients and retain the same sort of fee base. So you can work with higher quality, fewer clients, deliver them more services, increase your satisfaction, not have to deal with the rubbish clients. And then again, mitigate risk of your practice in the event of a claim or a dispute. And we have heard firsthand from the professional bodies that compliance with these standards, particularly 305, has come up or non-compliance has come up as an issue within all of their quality reviews as well. So this is really important, particularly as we start to see potentially more businesses moving into insolvency, given what's happened over the last sort of 18 months to 2 years. I think it's absolutely critical that you are protecting your own firm and your own team and yourselves as practitioners if you are working with clients who are at risk. And then finally, providing clarity around your expectations from your clients, their expectations of you, your obligations, their obligations, and so on. So this is why we exist. And I'm sure that some of you would know some of that already, but we were founded back in 2013. So coming up on almost 10 years ago now. And since then, we've grown to service almost 6,000 accounting and bookkeeping firms globally across Australia and the UK and the US, Canada and South Africa and a whole bunch of interesting countries there, but predominantly working with accounting and bookkeeping practices to really help you transform the way you're working with your clients and give you a platform to help you engage better. Finally, and this will be relevant to those of you in Australia and New Zealand, but we have formed partnerships with the leading professional associations, CANZ, the Institute and CPA, and also there's some upcoming partnerships as well with the likes of the ICB and a few other bookkeeping groups to actually pull their engagement letter templates into Ignition to allow you to use their most up-to-date relevant templates without having to go and manually adjust them or edit them. So that really takes the burden off you needing to stay up to date with the changes to guidance that's provided by your association and gives you that platform to easily stay compliant. Before I jump into the software, I just wanted to cover off on sort of the 6 key things that we really focus on. We help you to create impressive, professional-looking online proposals to help you communicate value to clients. Again, automate the creation of those engagement letters, which are critically important. Manage your once-off or recurring payments, and that is for fixed or hourly billing, which again, I'll show you in a few minutes. Automate the collection of those payments and the invoicing of that as well, so your entire accounts receivable process. Automate your workflows, so any job deployment, workflow deployment into Xero Practice Manager, for example, will be automated from the back of an Ignition proposal. And then surface up some dashboards and insights for you so you can start to dive into client profitability, recoverability, and drill into your fee base to actually get some interesting insights into how you should be running your practice and which clients are your best clients. Not just your favorite clients, but your most profitable clients. So a really simple 4-step process to sort of get your head around. After the online proposal is sent, which you can create in a matter of minutes, we'll then automatically collect the payment according to the schedule that the client signs online. We will automatically raise and reconcile all the invoices if you're connecting a ledger and mark those as paid. And then the 4th point there is the ability to deploy all sorts of different workflows and actions following the acceptance of the proposal. So it might be, if it's an individual tax client, send them a checklist for all of the items that they need to provide for you to complete the lodgement. If it's a quarterly BAS, it might deploy a quarterly recurring job into Xero Practice Manager automatically. But the thing behind it is that no work is being completed without a signed engagement and proposal upfront. So I hope that makes sense. we're going to jump in and have a look now. And the chat and the Q&A is eerily quiet. So if you do have any questions, please jump in so I can be sure that I am talking to live people who are in fact here today. So hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to demonstrate what the client accept experience looks like, and then I'm going to work backwards and show you how you can create a proposal practice side for your clients as well. So I'm not sure what your current proposal or engagement letter looks like, but I can almost guarantee you, I'm happy to put money on it, that this looks cooler, right? So you've got a branded, professional looking digital proposal. You can choose to include a video if you like. Now this can be any video. We provide ones that are pre-made for you, or you can create your own if you like and record something personal. You can create a personal message alongside that as well. You have the option to include a branded up brochure as well. And this firms use this for a variety of different things, but occasionally a bit of background on your practice or the different services that you offer. Anything that's relevant, you can choose to include one of these within your proposal. And then thirdly here, and potentially the thing that I get the most excited about, is the ability to present multiple options. So previously, for those who have looked at Ignition in the past, we didn't allow you to present more than one quote to a client, but now we give you the ability to present up to 3. So you can demonstrate and clearly communicate the value of engaging you at a higher level of service against some of your lower service levels. And this looks really, pretty and well defined. Part of getting set up with Ignition is that we help you to standardize a lot of this pricing within your practice. So we can actually help you. We create suggested service and templates here that you can leverage to have a very similar looking proposal for your business. So regardless of the services you provide, whether you're working within a niche, whether you're doing SPSF, whether you're tax agent, you're doing compliance for small business clients, whether you're just servicing individuals, you've got the ability to present and communicate value up front in this proposal. So you can see the 3 different price points that I've got for this particular proposal here for this client. The basic one, which is for small businesses up to 10 employees, it's the quarterly BAS, it's the ASIC reviews, some variable bookkeeping and payroll as well. When we move up on the price point here, we get structure advice and tax planning and some advisory services and annual accounts and so on, along with the quarterly BAS and the activity statements, some software subscriptions that we absorb and on charge as well to the client. And you've got, as I said here, your additional tax planning services and some slightly bigger payroll and bookkeeping services. And then the final, the sort of Big Mac, if you want to call it that, of the compliance menu is the ability to sort of include advisory services on top of that as well, if you're wanting to do monthly meetings and so on. So pay less attention to the specifics of what's in each level of service and more attention to the fact that you can actually list all of this out easily and clearly communicate this to your clients. Now let's select the middle tier. And then we go one step further and actually drill down into each of those different levels of service to demonstrate what's included for each of those services as well. So again, coming back to that point where you can clearly communicate to clients to say, hey, for my bookkeeping, I'm going to, this price point includes reconciliation of up to 500 transactions in your bank account, yada, yada, yada. And if that's exceeded, you then have a base to go back and sort of adjust that and bump them up to a new tier, which is preloaded into Ignition as well. Similar for payroll, which is always a lot of fun. Everyone loves doing payroll, not. And then you've got, clearly the inclusions for your advisory services and tax planning and reviews and stuff. So just the ability to get really clear on all of the inclusions for each of these different price points and services, personally, I think is really valuable. Then the payment schedule. So again, you can choose to show or hide as little or as much detail, if that makes sense, as you like within this payment schedule. So you can actually show the client, hey, I'm going to be charging you this fixed amount every month. And then we've got a variable component on top of that as well that will be monthly. And you can see here that, and this is quite a relatively new update to Ignition, is that you've got the ability to now charge on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis on either fixed fee or hourly. Previously, we could only really do fixed monthly recurring billing through Ignition, but you've now got the ability to vary payments and do variable payments for each of the different services that you've got included here as well. And you can actually choose whether to show individual prices or just show an overall price for the services as well. A really good question that's come through. Thanks, Giles, for asking that. How many proposals a week should be targeted to justify using Ignition? Because we manage the ongoing collection of these payments, it's not necessarily how many proposals per week you should be sending out. It's how many ongoing relationships are you managing, with business clients is sort of the question to be asking. So if you are billing on a regular cadence, or you're wanting automation of billing, we're really suited from practices who work with even 15, 20 clients up to 3, 4, 500, 1,000 clients as well. So because our pricing structure scales on usage, you're able to come on board at a plan that suits the number of clients that you're working with and still benefit from the automated payments and accounts receivable automation. Moving on, one thing that really sets us apart from just using a PDF, for example, is the ability to capture client payment details, either credit cards or direct debit information up front in the proposal, which is fantastic. So rather than getting an engagement letter signed, doing the work, calculating the final invoice, sending it to the client, waiting however long it takes to get paid off the back of that invoice, you are actually getting payment details agreed to up front so that you can then bill them according to that schedule. So it doesn't mean that you're charging them up front, but it means that you can bill them on completion. You can do progress payments. You can take a deposit up front if you like. You can charge on a monthly recurring fixed fee basis if you like, but you've got agreement from the clients up front to charge for that work. And again, this is something my accountant does. For my personal tax, I get a proposal through Ignition, and that's a $200 tax return that I put in my direct debit information. Well, it's actually saved mine from the last year, so I just say, yep, use the same details, and then immediately when that is lodged, I'll get that deducted from my account, and the invoice is sent to me automatically, which is really cool. So it means that they don't have to go through that whole admin burden of reconciling and chasing invoices and setting up invoices and so on. We've done it all automatically. Finally here, the engagement letter, which I'm sure most of you are quite interested in, is this is actually formatted automatically. So because we set up a dynamic template that pulls in client and price information and so on, we automatically populate these engagement letter templates for you on a per proposal basis. So you simply select the template that you want to use, and it's populated, it's there, it's ready to go, and you simply review it and send it to the client, who would then digitally sign that and accept. A copy is then sent to the client and also sent to you as well. So I'm going to jump backwards for a second and actually show you how this works from the practice side. So you've seen what the awesome, amazing client experience looks like. It's really slick, right? How does this work for my firm? Is this actually going to be easier to use, or is it just going to create more work and more headaches and a new system, for the team to learn? Well, let me show you. So when I'm creating a new proposal, I will use this new editor here. And what pops up immediately is my practice-wide templates. And so I've got a custom template here for advisory services for tax planning, and also access to 20 or 30 standard templates here that include suggested pricing, scope of works, and so on that you would typically charge as a tax or a BAS agent, a bookkeeper, and so on. So we've got various different services here: compliance, FBT, individual tax returns for the different types, so companies, partnerships, trusts, SMSF, so on, STP2, sole traders, yada, yada, yada. So you've got a great starting point here in Ignition to start leveraging these templates. And you can see some of these actually include those multiple options already. So I'm going to select the first one here, which is just compliance, bookkeeping, and advisory for a company, and giving us 3 options. So I'm going to use that template, and that will populate this whole proposal with the services that reside in that template. Importantly, if I make any changes to this, or I want to save this so it's specific to my practice and my clients, I can save it back to my template library, and then I can leverage that going forward. And it takes, as you just saw then, about 5 seconds for it to load and spin up the template. Now, for those of you using Xero Practice or Xero Practice Manager or Xero, we'll sync in the client list as well. So we can select a client that's coming in from XPM. If you can see the little green, there you go. Oh, didn't mean to zoom in, but there you go. That's a nifty feature there. So you can see that it's actually syncing across from your Xero single source of truth. And then you can choose a proposal start date. and the minimum contract length for that proposal. And you can see here that in the services tab, it's actually automatically pulled in all of these services for me. And now, again, this is sort of the concept of providing 3 options, but I can just as easily, delete these options and just have a single option for my client as well, if I wanted to do that. And so I'm going to just demonstrate using a single quote, but you can obviously, create those templates that have got multiple price points and packages. Now, if I wanted to add a particular service to, these monthly items that I am billing, for instance, budgeting and cash flow forecasting as an example. I've heard a lot of clients are interested in this at the moment, so I'm going to use this as an example. If they're going for a loan from the bank and it's in financing, they need a cash flow forecast. I'm going to bring that in to my engagement in Ignition. And I'm going to, instead of charging that as a once-off fee, I'm going to charge that at a monthly recurring basis, and break that down into an $150 a month charge as part of that. Now, for this particular service, you can see here that it's got a description already built in for that forecasting service. Now, this is really important because when you have the breakdown of what's included in the service, that is what will be pulled into the summary of works that I demonstrated earlier on the client-facing side, which is really useful, right? So you can actually have these all templated out. You can customize how they look, the formatting, and so on. And then, of course, you can create your own services in this library that you wish to present to your clients as well. So you can see I've got some for audit in there, some for bookkeeping, commercial cleaning. That's interesting. So I've got some consulting, estate planning, lawn care. I'm just giving you examples that you can fully customize the services that are in this library that you can pull in to your proposal. One thing that I did want to mention as well is this point. So the software subscription services, so the cloud accounting software subscription, this is how you can actually on charge for your Xero subscriptions to your clients as well, and make sure that you are collecting payment for those in a timely fashion. And the amazing thing is, if Xero go and decide to raise their prices, which they did last month, you can then go and automatically update that for all your engagements, which is amazing, right? So you've got a lot of standardization here that you can bring in. You can have multiple projects. You can, as I said, collect deposits. You've got so much flexibility here around how you bill for these services. It's really quite exciting. So you can bill and provide a range if you're, so for example, I'm not sure how detailed the business might be. It might be $1,000 to $5,000 to do a forecast or something. It might be on a unit basis. So if I did want to charge by hour, it could be $200 an hour if the partner's having to go in and do the forecast. However it is that you bill, we can now accommodate that within Ignition. So I just wanted to dispel the myth, if you like, that Ignition is just for those monthly fixed fee recurring billed clients and business models. You've now got the ability to switch on this require option, which again, this is pretty handy. If you've got a client that's coming in and they're new, you're not sure, you've not worked with them before, we would recommend you require payment from your clients. That means that they have to put in their payment details before they can sign the proposal. If you have got longer term clients and you're not so worried, they pay their invoice on time, not really a hassle, you can switch off payment for those clients if they're paying you in another way. But though, particularly the clients maybe who have been bad payers in the past, it's a really good idea to switch on that require payment option. Now, on the term side, you can see here the engagement letter on the left, and on the right-hand side, all of the association engagement letters that I have access to within Ignition, because in my demo account, I'm a member of all 3, which you most likely wouldn't be. So you would have the most relevant one, whether it's the CAs, the CPAs, or the IPAs there, ready for you to use for this particular engagement. And so, for CANZ, the July 22 updates, if you didn't know, there were updates in July this year. And you can see that's gone and populated through with all of the roles and responsibilities, professional obligations, the fees and the payments, liens, confidentiality, privacy. There's a provision here for out-of-scope work as well, third-party responsibilities, outsourcing. Very cool, right? So you've got the ability to just select a template and the client information and everything is populated automatically without you having to do a thing. Finally, for those who are using Xero Practice Manager, here is where you can deploy the various jobs into XPM as well. Drop in the chat if you are using XPM, so I know whether to spend any time on this. But you've got categories, you can auto-assign the partners, the managers, and the staff working on the job, all of your different categories according to the XPM best practice, the descriptions, the budget, which is pulled through from the earlier stage in the services tab, and then all the workflow templates that are linked through as part of that based on, again, the services that you've included. So again, really cool. Like once this proposal is accepted, that job will be automatically deployed with all of that information in there ready to go. Your admin team or yourself, if you're the admin team, you don't have to go in and manually populate those as well. Finally, okay, I'm going to jump back and show you something that's even cooler. Once you have all of your engagements within Ignition, and yes, Trade, good question. We do have, there's actually a number of different softwares that we can integrate with. So if you're using like Carbon or Intuit QuickBooks Online or Practice Management, or even Zapier, because you can plug into things like Trello and Jetpack, as you can see on the screen now, and Asana and so on for workflow. So you can integrate all of those through Zapier at the moment. But if there's a specific workflow solution that you would like us to explore an integration with, please let us know. And we're happy to look at that as well. Great question though, thanks for asking. In the pipeline view here, this is where I think the real value is for those ongoing and what we call renewals. So those annual re-engagements that you'll complete with your clients, or you should be completing. You've got the ability now to filter by renewal date. So I'm going to see all of my accepted proposals and filter by renewal date to show me all of the proposals that are coming up all renewal, or all the proposals that are ending. So I can see I've got my my tax and accounting services here for Space Ranger client that are or have ended on the 13th of September. So I should go in there and I should have a conversation with these guys, review the scope, go and look at my recoverability and profitability in Practice Manager. Did I charge enough? Did I charge too much? Then go in and sit down with the client, review expectations and reprice. And now, thanks to Ignition, you've actually got a really solid platform to enable you to do that and give you confidence when you're talking about your pricing and your services as well. So I think this is really cool. You can filter by service, you can filter by value, you can filter by partner, by client group, various tags by manager and so on. Super valuable to have this insight into your client list that you wouldn't be able to get out of Xero Practice Manager. So all of this information pertaining to their engagement and their payment. In a similar vein, we do surface a dashboard to your practice. So you can actually see all of the projected totals. So what cash is projected to come in based off the signed proposals that I've gotten agreed to by my clients, the breakdown of credit card and direct debit, if that interests you, any rejected payments, expiring cards. And by the way, Ignition automates all of this sort of follow-up around payment management as well. So if the client's got an expired payment method, we will go and chase the client on your behalf. You don't need to go and do that, and we'll prompt them to update their payment details automatically. So it's all these small things which just add up and save you a heck of a lot of time if you're enabling Ignition payments. You're able to see your current clients and then a breakdown of all your most profitable or popular services rather, and your client list as well that you can export out into Excel, everybody's favorite reporting tool, and do some slicing and dicing in more detail. Finally, I just wanted to sort of wrap up with just this notion of a library. So what I showed you earlier might have looked a little bit overwhelming. Ignition comes with all of this out of the box. So for those of you who haven't started a trial yet, I would encourage you to, and I'm going to raise a poll at the end to enable us to send you the link to start a trial if you'd like. You can jump in and get access to all of these example services here. So if you're in another industry, you can take advantage of those, but most likely you're an accountant or a bookkeeper. You can access over 40 popular service templates with real-world benchmark prices, with common deliverables for all those services into your account straight away, alongside a sample engagement letter that we have for you as well. So look, I hope that was really helpful. Back to the slides. I did just want to go through a quick overview of what the post or the implementation process looks like for you rather. So we give you this one-to-one setup support and training, access to exclusive webinars and events. You get access to our Facebook community page, which is almost 4,000 accountants and bookkeepers in that group now, a dedicated account manager and a point of contact. We really do understand that quite often it's easy to purchase a new bit of software and it's really difficult to implement it, and it takes way more time than you might think. So we have a huge support network and system and process to help you make sure you're getting the most value out of the software from day dot. And that will start off with a kickoff call with your customer success manager, where we do team training, one-to-one training to really support you in your use of Ignition, and particularly as you are rolling clients over to this new way of doing business. And you can sort of see a bit of an overview of what this looks like. It's a really mapped out process going through specific items to really help you get the most out of all of the different pieces of functionality. And we've got experts within the team who are more than happy to support you along the way. So I'm going to raise a final poll now for those of you who are here. If you could jump in and let us know if you would like us to contact you with a more personalized call to answer any questions. I'm conscious that you might not want to ask detailed questions in the chat here. So if you would like us to give you a call to see how Ignition can help your practice, or set up a one-on-one demo or training with your team or any other stakeholders in your business, please select that first option in the poll and we can do so. Or if you would like the resources that I mentioned earlier in the webinar and the link to the free trial so you can test it yourself, please jump in and select that second option there as well. And this is where I will know, for those of you who are checking your emails and not paying attention, it's time to come back to the webinar and make sure you go and vote in on that poll so we can prioritize reaching out to you, as it is a super busy time for our team. So if you don't vote on that poll, there's not a guarantee that you'll get a spot. So please jump in, vote on that poll so that we can be sure to reach out to you and send you those resources if it is of interest. So once again, I just wanted to say thank you. Hopefully the session today was really useful, giving you an overview of why we exist, to help you remain compliant in your engagements, to help you eliminate debtors within your practice, help you set client expectations and create amazing client experiences, and give you that clarity and confidence over your engagements process so that you can be sure to actually get paid for all the value that you're delivering to your clients. An earlier question that did come up, I might as well answer that now. So Giles asked if is there a cost per paid invoice, or only those clients using the Ignition Pay service? That is absolutely correct. So you only pay payment fees on clients who are processing payments through Ignition's payment platform. If they are paying elsewhere, you can absolutely do that. You just don't get the benefit of the automation on the accounts receivable and the invoicing and reconciliation, that sort of stuff. But absolutely, you've got flexibility, and you can certainly just use Ignition for proposal and engagement letters if you so desire. Thank you to all of you who have attended today. Hopefully you found this session really useful, and hopefully you enjoy the back end of your week and your weekend as well. Thanks to all of you. Feel free, for those who don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. If anyone does have questions, please hang around in the Q&A, and I'm happy to answer those now.